Just rock that way.
Here's 400 years now and over. All them superpower trying to conquer Africa. Yes, they went up there with all the lust and the greed. But look care how much they try, they can't succeed. Yes, they kill and keep killing. But the more Africans they kill, the more they see coming. And they try and they can't make hands with Africans. Get back up the bag and it's back they gone to the land. Why? The warriors they gone down. It's the warriors we come. The more Africans that they kill. It's the more they see come. Chuchu! Zulu! Ashanti! Watusi! Chuchu! Zulu! The more warriors that they gone down. We get back Mozambique so easy. Zimbabwe and Angola are ready. And if it's one thing I saw, no whatever. Namibia and South Africa round the corner. Yes, it's one bounded from Hiroshima. And they get the whole of Japan to surrender. And in 200 years, Red Cloud and the reservation. But for 400 years, they still can't stop you Africans. Why? The warriors, they go down. It's the warriors, we come. The Africans that they kill. It's the more they see coming. Tutu! Zulu! Ashanti! Watusi! Tutu! Zulu! The more Africans that they go down. The deal with Lamumba long ago. Just the deal with Moboyak and Sipiko. Just the keep killing leaders after leader. But look at how much they kill Africans won't surrender. And how come the same people want to tell me Africans today got no unity? Yes, I know they may say I'm drunk, they may say I'm mad. But one day Africans will be living under. The more warriors they gone down. It's the more warriors we come. The more Africans that they kill. It's the more Tutu! Zulu! Ashanti! Watusi! Balai! Balai! The more Africans that they gone down. Yes, them have the gun and them have the bomb. Yes, it's them making all the nuclear weapons. And if there's one thing I know now I could bet, Africans never invent no bombers yet. But then how come with all the bad? When they reach Africa, the weapon become a scrapyard. Like they won't believe the words of the old witch doctor. When he said that Africa shall never be. The more Africans they got down, it's the more Africans we come. The more warriors that they kill, it's the more they sick. Tutu! Zulu, Ashanti, Watusi, Tutu, Zulu, Ashanti, Watusi, Makandele, Tutu, Zulu, the more African that they got done.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Calling all the nation, all them nation. Watusi, Zulu, Matambele, Yoruba, Karamanti, Hausa. Nation, where are you there? Nation, where you nation? All of we are one generation. All of we are one generation. Watusi, the more African they come, is the more African we come. Resilience, resistance, that's what we're talking about. Good evening to all of you wonderful people, all of you Africans, all of you Indian Guyanese, Amerindians, all of you who are with us tonight. We are doing God's work. We are doing the work of our ancestors. We are calling on all the nation. Nation, where them nation? Nation, where them there? All we are one generation. Nation, where them there? Nation, where you nation? Nation, are you come? Nation time. Nation time. You see, we have the African nation. Then we have the Guyanese nation. Then we have the Caribbean nation. Then we have the African diaspora nation. Nation are where them there. Nation are where them there. All of we are one generation. All of we are one generation. Good evening. Nobody can stop us in this time because we are righteous people. We are righteous people. And you all know what? We talking because we are building up our own narrative. Yes, Doreen, Medea, me like the nation where you the Medea. Are we there, so? Good evening. That's what I want to hear from our people, because you are black, you are beautiful. And if you are brown and you get some black in you, you are also beautiful. And our Indian and Amerindian and our mix and Portuguese brothers and sisters who there with us, are you a nation too? Are you a nation too? Because we are righteous. Good evening to all you righteous people. Wonderful to have you all here. A big shout out to the ladies at the baker shop in Buxton. You know, I was remarking to Brother Kidackie, who's on tonight, making his first appearance since he got out of jail. And Brother Nigel London is here tonight. We are going to be stirring it up. You all remember the old song, stir it up, stir it up, stir it up, stir it up. That's what we're doing tonight. They don't like the narrative. They say the narrative is one-side narrative, but they expect us. We got to talk our narrative. We got to talk our narrative. A big shout out to the ladies at the Buxton Baker Shop. Big shout out to Sharma, who is from Victoria, but work in Buxton. And I went in there earlier today to buy my story, you know, the pastries and whatever else they have there and so on. And wanted to buy shout out Mr. Hines from Hear Me Voice, and he did tell the back walking, he shout out Mr. Hines. And so the lady here, the young lady here, and she said, "You are Mr. Hines? That us be on the TV?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I just listen to you every night. Up to this morning, you was on Kidackie." I said, "Yes." I said, "What's it?" She said, "You said for undermining the government." I said, "All right." She said, "Us listen every day, you know. Every day. I don't miss morning and I don't miss night. She, not 20s. I think we sometimes mistakenly believe that young people end in this thing. And as I walk Guyana, she said, well, she said, well, this world is a small world. I didn't expect you to come in the baker shop. You live in Buxton? I say, yes. I a born and bred Buxtonian. And we constantly engage that because you see, our people expect our politicians not to go in the baker shop or go in the market or walk the road. So sometimes when they see us, they're a little bit surprised. She says, it's a small world. And I said, yes, it is a small world. And please continue watching and listening. We are doing it. We are giving consciousness to all our people, including our young people. They may not be as vocal, but they are watch. Nation, where are you there? All of we are one generation. All of we are one generation. Tanzania, Mozambique, and Zambia. All of we are one generation. Good evening, Flash Gordon. Out there in the quarantine, I had good times with the Africans on the quarantine. Union, Evershan, Kildonan. Ayuamikal Moore, Rich. Well, you all know I love West Bobbies, but that's not the only place that we have got. And good evening to all of you. You all are so wonderful people. Good evening to the young men, Indian brothers, who I met in industry a couple of days ago and said, you're the stock for we too. And I saying to them, I know I'm the stock for some of you all, but I can't represent you all the way I want to represent because they're going to kill you. They're going to kill you. And so when the Indian man called in upon Kidackie this morning and pour his heart out, and he asked me a question. He said, Mr. Hines, with all them big degree what they get, why this country so wrong? Good evening to all our Indian brothers and sisters who are standing for the struggle, who are in the struggle, and who are for the struggle. And that is why I'm saying to those Indians outside, the Indian leaders outside of the PPP, Upong Bornam, Upong Bornam, Upong Granger, Upong Height, Morda Bornam, Morda Height, hammer them. And when faced with Indian transgressions, they're tapping them on the wrist. You see, I just got to sleep at night, knowing that when a black government was in power, I walked on them. I revealed this morning that Amnali knocked me off after 3 months from the Minister of Social Cohesion. It took the audience by shock. The coalition government knocked me off 2 times. Amnali knocked me off from the Ministry of Social Cohesion after 3 months. I never get a knock-off letter. They just stop paying me. And she's reported to have said to people that he who pays the piper called the tune. She knocked me off because I said the 50% raise that they give themselves was wrong. And she knocked me off from the Ministry of Social Cohesion. And then I was at the Chronicle doing God's work too. I used to write the editorials carrying the government line, and then on the same day write my own column carrying me line, knocking the government when they're wrong. And somebody bigger than Amnali, me not call name, knocked me off too. The coalition knocked me off 2 times. But here is the story. Here is the story. And that's why I'm talking about the elites. The economic elite, the political elites, the educated elites, the social elites. Elites meaning people who get disproportionately more of the resources than the normal people. That the little public servant got to worry she get knocked off from her job, she can't pay she rent. But you, the economic elites and the social elites, you all are independent of the government. You see, Amnali knocked me off. And then somebody bigger than she knocked me off from thing. But I had other means of economic survival. So nobody can control me. And the thing that beating Jack Dew on them is that I guess some of us don't depend on them for work, for nothing. And I'm saying those are the people who must stand up more. I hear people talk about boots on the ground. If a poor teacher get knocked off for Jesus Christ, and what she gonna do? But if I get knocked off, I can make it. I don't depend on them. That is why our boots must be on the ground first. Me boots, Kidackie boots, Nigel London boots, Aubrey Norton boots. Because we don't depend on them. And instead of you all calling for poor people to put their boots on the ground first, call on all you leaders, your economic leaders, your political leaders, call on them for put their boots on the ground first. The people will follow. They'll stand in boxing every day. That times, don't worry. When you're ready, we ready, you know. That's why they get police and soldier inside there watching them people. They understand me every day. When you're ready, we ready. And I know that. I know that. We are doing it tonight. Kidackie Amsterdam is waiting. Nigel London is waiting. And we are ready for them. On your mark. Get steady. Get ready. On your mark. Get ready. We are ready to go. We are ready to go. We are ready to go. Good evening to all of you. Love is flowing like a river. Like a river. Politics 101 is the place to be on a night like tonight. And we are doing it. We are doing it. We are ready to go. We the freedom fighters. We the freedom fighters. We are there. We are saying, we there with them because we're going to contest the election. We're going to contest. Y'all going to get for vote for Kidackie. Y'all going to get for vote for Diane and Takuma and Clive Thomas and David Hines. Y'all going to get for vote for we. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Y'all going to get to vote for us. But we are saying man shall not live by bread alone. In between the election, we got to manage them. And this government, you heard it, people that say, hold the government accountable. Hold the government accountable. Hold the government accountable. We don't want to hold the government accountable. We want to manage them behind. Manage them. And instead of we frighten them, they must frighten we. That's my motto. That's my motto. Let's go. Let's go. On your mark. Get ready. My brothers, you see when I get champions coming on the program, I just got take first drum. Get me story out of the way because when you are command, I have to fade in the background. Good evening, my brother warriors. The more African that they've gone down, the more African that they've gone down. They're coming still. They're coming still. Brother Nigel, it's been a long time.
Greetings to you, of course, to Kidackie as well, and to all of those who are viewing. It has been a long time, but it's certainly been a wonderful time to know that there's still those who are in the fight, those who are standing strong, and to, of course, my brother Kidackie, I'm certainly grateful that you continue to stand. And we're yet to see the end of that which I know will embarrass the comedians on the other side of sense and wisdom. So it's good to be here.
Brother Kidackie, I have been talking to you, but this is the first time you've graced my program in a long time. The first time since you get out of the jail, and you are standing strong. Good night, my brother.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. Apostle Nigel. Good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure indeed to be here. Yes, I spent a few hours in detention. I don't know that I was in jail, and I don't accept being jailed. I must be as a bird. Right. Yeah, it's good to be here. And certainly, thank you for acknowledging the sacrifices. Um, they're necessary to be made.
The title of tonight's program is Gold the Gate. And I'm trying to play on Watergate and all the other gates since then. Gold Gate. Here is the thesis I want you all to address. Citizen Mohammed and his son, from what the Americans are telling us, have defrauded the government and by extension the people of Guyana of an exorbitant amount of money. The Americans are also telling us that the government, which is created to prevent the Mohammeds and people like the Mohammeds from defrauding the government and the people of the country. And also this entity called the government that was created to prevent defrauding the people of the country. We have found out that this government is in collusion with the defrauders. And even when the defrauders became known to them, they protect the defrauders. We understand that they recruited the defrauders to their ranks. We understand that they use the state, officials of the state, to aid and abet defrauders. I am putting it to you, and I do so with great risk, because I just always remember Dudu from a village. Then the magistrate said, Mr. Sanko, I am putting it to you that you committed a certain offense. He said, you can't put nothing to me. You're not being there. But I take the risk and putting it to you all that the story, the crime here is the crime of the government that is a criminalized state, and that has turned our state into a criminalized state. That for me is the big story, and I am putting it to you all. Disagree with me, agree with me, rip it apart, but go to town. I will start with the man from Linden Town, brother Nigel. My thesis, what do you think?
Thank you for your thesis, and thank you for being one who, more often than not, would share in my viewpoint. There's hope when one of your caliber can have the thought processes that I do. Because examining what the US would have said, and at the beginning of this, let me present as I always would do. I have very little interest in the United States of America representing me or fighting for me in any cause whatsoever. They have done more to humanity that is terrible than anybody else I know. However, the truth still remains that they, in their bid to, as far as I can see it, deal with certain elements in this country the way they should be dealt with, have exposed and brought to the fore very damning and dangerous, according to what the US ambassador said, a preponderance of evidence would have been had, and they brought this to the people in reference to the conclusion they would have drawn. What is of greatest interest to me in all that was said in that report is that it included government officials, plural, not singular. They did not speak to one individual alone. They spoke to government officials, which has to be more than one. It therefore tells me that the United States of America Treasury Department, and by extension the FBI, and they're all interconnected, they have become aware of the fact that the government officials in this country are corrupt people. It goes beyond the private citizens. It has now spiraled into the lap of the government officials. They did not say except the president or except Jaglio or except anybody. They said government officials in general. So it now behoves Jaglio, Irfan, and anybody else to try to even take the risk to say that their hands are clean and they will prove to the US that the government is not corrupt. That's the part I would like to see. But Guyana, by extension, or for the longest while, I've said it for years, this society at the top, what we call the top tier of our social strata, they are most corrupt. The PPP is known for being the most corrupt set of people. I've often said this, that when I examine who surrounds the likes of Jaggi, what kind of elements and creatures and what kind of characters he has around them, they are known for being corrupt, vile, degraded, decadent in their morality and everything. And these people are some of the worst that you can find. What makes criminals so attracted to this man? That's a question our guys should ask themselves. What makes people of a certain disposition so easily gravitated towards him and that party?
What makes people so easily gravitated towards him and to that party? Kidackie, Amsterdam, the PPP has criminalized the state of Guyana. What do you think?
Well, the PPP has not criminalized the state of Guyana now. I think it's known, it's widely known that the PPP of past, save and except the 5 year that the AP and UFC was in government, had criminalized the state. As a matter of fact, the US again had made several statements indicating that the state was criminalized. Guyana was at the top of the cocaine export business in that previous PPP government. They were being sanctioned under the FATF, financing of terrorism and money laundering and all of that. They had lost what they call it, correspondent banking facilities and all of that because of the integration of the state with criminality. So it's not now that that is known. But let's fast forward to this period, this quote unquote new PPP government. I certainly agree that they have continued to criminalize the state. A lot of people might be looking at the recent reports from the US Department of Treasury in terms of the 50 million US, I think, that the state or the US says the state was defrauded by the Mohammeds. But, you know, when I look at the relationship between the Mohammeds and the US report, I'm asking myself, isn't this payback? Isn't the PPP paying back for favors, political and otherwise? Let me explain that. Leading up to the 2020 elections, it was widely known or widely believed that the Mohammeds were providing, among other things, security as presidential candidate Irfan Ali.
It is alleged.
Well, I said widely believed. It's alleged.
It is alleged. It's alleged. We do not know that for a fact. It is alleged.
Okay, good. It's alleged that the Mohammeds were providing support, let me call it logistic and other support for the PPP and the PPP's presidential candidate. We have seen in the media, and this is something that has been discussed, members of the Guyana Police Force lining up in front of the Mohammeds' premises for Christmas Freck, as we call it, sanctioned by the Commissioner of Police. Let me say allegedly again, because that is the word that the Commissioner of Police was okay with it. We've seen recently in the local government elections, the father, Shell Mohammed, as we call him, running on a PPP slate for the Nebo Democratic Council in Eccles Ramburg, I think the area is called, but some place on the East Bank there. As a matter of fact, I understand that he is a councillor currently on that NDC. So there is a relationship between the accused and the PPP. right? We've seen photographs also of the sanctioned permanent secretary going on hunting another expedition with the Mohammeds.
It is
So
alleged. It is
no,
alleged.
it no no.
It is alleged.
Okay, it is alleged. It is alleged. Those
I do
photographs are
not
public,
want
but
this
it is
program
alleged.
to be used as
Those
I pose the question, Mr. Amsterdam. I pose the question about the state because I want our focus to be on the state. I don't want this thing to be about the Mohammeds. The Mohammeds are accused, and a lot of things they are alleged of. But I am saying the culprit in this, the primary culprit, is the government that is using the state, and that is what I want to keep the focus on.
I am establishing, sir. I'm establishing the relationship between the government and the accused to show where the government is complicit in what is taking place. It is also alleged that when the son of the Mohammeds bought one of perhaps the world's most expensive car, I can't remember if it's a Ferrari, it is alleged that that vehicle was allowed duty-free concessions.
Yeah,
right?
we have heard all of that, and I really do not want my program to be used to recount the Mohammed story. I really want to stay away.
I speak in context. Sorry, I always speak in context.
Hold on, Kidackie, hold on. I do not want this program to be used as any kind of thing on the Mohammeds. If we're talking about the Mohammeds here, we have to talk about them within the context of state criminalization. I really don't want to go there. And that's for other people, but not for my program.
I appreciate that.
I want to stay away from the Mohammeds cars and the Mohammeds this and that. I'm begging you. Let us stick to the question. That's why I posed the question.
I'm going to move. I'm going to move off of that. But I am saying this. Anybody who joins the program today for the first time and hearing of this issue need context. All I'm doing is establishing.
I don't want to get into the Mohammeds.
But you can't ask me to respond to you and then don't allow me to respond to you.
No,
otherwise,
I'm just laying down the parameters for my program that I do not want to make this about the Mohammeds. I want to make it about the government of Guyana. That is my focus. That's all I'm saying.
I am saying part of the criminality against the people of this country is because of political payback. That's all I'm saying.
All right,
and the previous statements were to establish that there was a need for political payback, right? And so the state is complicit. The state is like we said is in bed and has allowed this kind of abuse of the state resources and everything because of the need for political payback, right? It's a fact that the accused representative of the state could not have been acting alone, because if you look at the hierarchy of the governance, you will understand that no PS, quite frankly, has the freedom to make the kind of decisions, to have the kind of impact on this country like the US has described. And so, yes, the PPP is guilty of criminalizing the state. Why have they allowed themselves or allowed others to take advantage of the resources of this country is, as I'm saying, simply because, among other things, it's political payback. As we like to say, it's friends, family, and favorites being allowed to dip into the cookie jar at the expense of every citizen. And the PPP has been turning a blind eye. I don't know if I can say they've been forced to turn a blind eye, but they've been turning a blind eye simply because they are in bed with the people who are taking advantage of these resources.
Brother, thank you, Kidackie. Brother Nigel, let's talk. When you have a government that is prepared to go to this level of public corruption and to use it not just about doling out favors to the friends and family, but really use it as a form of governance. Because I think that's the key here, that this is part of the governance of the PPP. I mean, every government in the world, I'm sure, would do a little favor here, a little favor there, and so on. But that's not what we seem to be talking about here. We seem to be talking about what the political scientists call a kind of structural relationship between the government and the criminal, the private criminalized world, and the way in which they are using the state, that it now becomes not just about doing a little favor, paying back this money, paying back that money. It becomes form of governance. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And what I would have addressed at another forum is my concern about the fact that it's become so normal. You see, that's my bother. When it has become normal to Guyanese, as though that's nothing strange. It's acceptable to some extent, and it has somehow become a part of our lifestyle in this country, where people don't have an issue with it to the point whereby they wouldn't complain, but they will honor that which is being criminalized by the state, or allowed to be a criminal conduct by the state. When we have got officials who, based on their political position, they have the means of addressing certain matters that they know are criminal, and instead of addressing them, they become beneficiaries of the same. That's what the US is saying, that you have benefited based on your government position from criminal conduct, which makes you criminal. Because the law is clear. If you want to benefit from anything criminal, you know about it, then you're criminal. And I, over the past few days, have been saying, okay, let me see who would pop up to say, oh, I'm aware of this. This is wrong. I condemn. Condemnedly so. You're not hearing those words from our lawmakers. So if the lawmakers, who are called legislators for those viewing, are incapable of condemning what the US said is criminal. Hold on, let me go further if I can, please. Jack Dio said to the US, send us the evidence, and then we'll investigate. Now, where does this man find his reasoning from? We have officials in this country who are under his authority, and he's asking somebody outside to send him some information, evidence, and then he could deal with them in terms of investigation. So why do we have Blanham? Why do we have all of these people? Why do we have what they call the people we have to integrity commission? Are they not supposed to disclose their assets and report to this commission? The US said your party people would have benefited. The government officials have benefited. They also spoke to public corruption, Dr. Hines. When you have public corruption in a state, it's because the state officials have somehow allowed the public to become poisoned by corruption as well. So you're not, yes. I am very concerned about what has become normal for our country. Very concerned.
Yes. Become normalized. And can I come back to you? Now, here's the reason I'm not trying to focus on the individuals, the Mohammed and the cars and those kinds of things. Because the other side is going to say, in the coalition government, X person, they buy a new car and say, and they tell you down to that. That's why I'm trying to raise this from favors being done by governments. Because all governments you can point to did favors, and they'll tie us down to that. And that's why I'm trying to raise this to the level that is something unprecedented in the history of governance in this country. It's the extent to which the state, the government, and the state have become so intertwined in corruption, and it's now become normalized. So that a new government comes in, will either have to overturn the old system or continue in the same system. That what we have here is really systemic corruption, with the state not being a hidden hand, but being exposed. As you, Kidackie, said, and I agree with you, Madam Permanent Secretary could not have been acting alone. No permanent secretary can make those decisions on our own. It had to be people higher than her. This has to be a network, and it's dangerous because it endangers all of us. Because when the state becomes criminalized, we depend on the state to protect us. And the state becomes criminalized, it can't protect us. We are now living the life of the jungle, you see. And this is most dangerous. And what bothers me, and I'm putting this question to both of you, starting with Kidackie, what bothers me is that our legislators on the opposition side, our political leaders on the opposition side, don't seem to appreciate the enormity of what is happening today, yesterday, what is happening before us. And they themselves, if they're not careful, will become consumed by this normalization of criminalization, Kidackie, Amsterdam.
Dr. Hines, at the risk of taking flack, I'll say this. Many of them, most of them, or all of them perhaps, are already consumed by this normalization. I always argue, and I continuously say that a lot of the inaction on the part of our legislators to take quote unquote condign action when these things raise their heads might simply be for the fact that they too are muddied by it. What I have found in this country is that politicians keep secrets for politicians. And so the risk of fighting government corruption is the risk of having your own corruption exposed, right? And so for this week, I've been talking about ethical politics and ethical representatives of the people. That you talk about overhauling the entire system. I think Guyana is due for an overhaul. Every single agency of state in this country is corrupted. There's nobody that can tell me otherwise. And so if we want a state that is lean and clean and operates in a democratic and a legalistic way, we have to make some harsh decisions, if I want to call it that. We have to really clean from bottom up or top down, but we have to clean out every agency of the state. Because the fact is, the PPP over the years has allowed corruption to become pervasive, and for the simple reason, again, in my mind, to control. Because if you know a permanent secretary, for example, is doing corruption on the down low, that is information that you can use to control them. If you know a commissioner of police or assistant commissioner of police that is doing corruption on the down low, that is information you use to corrupt them. There's a story that is often told in this country. It is alleged, let me see, that during the troubled times of the 2000s, when there was a bank robbery, I think in Rosal, Bobby's there, a certain policeman was found with wet money in his apartment, suggesting that the money was, as they said, two thieves make God laugh, brought from that bank robbery. And they found the money in his home. And it is alleged that Barry Jagdale say, yeah, left the man with the money. Yeah, left the man. Yeah, don't punish the man or anything. That money is insured. The bank can get back the money and thing. And from that day, that man has become, quote unquote, house slave of the PPP. And up until now, he is a very senior man in the Guyana police force. And he does the bidding of the PPP wherever it's required. Because of what I'm saying, the PPP has allowed corruption to be pervasive in these agencies so that they can exert the kind of control that they want in the society.
Kidackie, I'm there, and I want to make very clear that this program does not associate itself with any attack on individuals, whether they are caught with money in their homes or not. That is outside of the purview of this program. We concentrate on the body politic, on the state. Ingrid, I noticed some Ingrid V. I noticed some very uncomplimentary comments being made by you. Please do not. We want to make this program an example of what Guyana could be and should be. And clearly, there's no place for those kinds of those kinds of comments. Please desist from it. Brother Nigel, this thing about our opposition politicians not recognizing the enormity of the moment before us, is that itself, as Kidackie suggesting, that the normalization that you are talking about, that it has already stepped in?
I believe that it has, and I believe that persons have begun to, even in the opposition, to maybe conclude that it is easier to get along with than to fight against. And you're not seeing, or I'm not seeing, a confrontational approach to corruption. What I'm hearing is just generalized statements. So this one is corrupt, they corrupt. You have to get rid of the people because they corrupt. But here the US played a powerful card, or made a powerful chess move to say, okay, this is what has happened. They didn't just name private individuals. Let's focus on that, as you're saying, please. They mentioned not just a single individual alone either. They said this person, along with government officials, are involved in a corrupt practice. We have a preponderance of evidence. These people have been involved, and through this person, this has happened. I would have expected that the opposition would now say, aha, now we have what we need. We are going to render, as Jagdio said, this country ungovernable because the USA corrupt. And now we're going to approach US to say, we are prepared. I'm speaking as the opposition should have said. We're not prepared to step up here and end this if we have to now, because we cannot share this pie with a corrupt set of people. They haven't done that because, in my view, the normal way of functioning now is that if I am to attain anything, it would not be by the normal, legal, and proper means. It has to have a dipping of corruption, a little drop or two of corruption, and then I'll be okay. And that is becoming the norm of our society. And when you have got the tentacles of corruption, which in so far, in my view, that at the legislative level, at the House of Assembly, at the parliamentary level, where there's an administration side and there's the official opposition side, and the opposition can't address it in a manner that would give Guyanese hope that they prepare to fight it. In my view, they have been in some way poisoned, or they are afraid to step up and do what they have to do. And that bothers me greatly.
Kidackie, have we reached the point where the opposition could, at the very least, move towards a vote of no confidence in the National Assembly?
Certainly. As some people say, that's a no-brainer. But the kind of disclosures that the U.S. Department of Treasury has made, and all of the happenings that we have witnessed for ourselves in this country, there is no doubt that the opposition has enough fuel, I would say, to light the fire of a no confidence motion against this government. I know there are many who might say that the speaker is not going to allow it and so on, but the onus is on the opposition, representatives of parliament, to table that no confidence motion and let the world see what the reaction of the speaker will
be. Brother Nigel, no confidence motion?
There needs to be not just a no confidence motion, but there has to be action outside of the House Assembly to show that we have no confidence in this corrupt cabal. And what does that call for, as you would have spoken to? Undermining. So people get nervous when they hear the word undermine. It means to simply weaken the power that one has. We, as Guyanese, if you could see that this is a corrupt group of individuals, then by all means you have to weaken their power, because they're using that power to facilitate ill practices, corrupt practices, and embolden themselves to say to the extent, listen, we don't care what you say, we do what we want. So yes, a no confidence motion would be a healthy thing to do. But I believe that Guyanese must have no confidence in this administration. Now, once it gets to the people, the masses in society, we don't need a vote. And that's where my heart is at this time. We don't need a vote for this, because we as the people are experiencing enough of the corruption in reference to what we're seeing, to say to the opposition side, even if you don't move this motion of no confidence, we don't have confidence in them. So we'll do something about how we feel. And this, because if I can share this with people, there's a figure of 139, let's say 140 billion Guyana dollars that GRA would have been accused of, would have been said, oh, they've defrauded the state of this sum of money. Just about. Now listen to me, man. Guyanese, hear me carefully. Our budget used to be less than that. Is that not enough to anger the average Guyanese to say, well, okay, if an arm of the state cannot deal with this matter as they would deal with a smaller business person, then the state has corruption that has to be addressed. Because if a businessman at a lower level has at $2, $3, $4, $5 million is questionable, or you'll have agents going after him and say, you have to account for this, or we're going to charge and do all kinds of things to you. We're going to fine you. Now somebody say, oh, we have something for you all. Over $100 billion we have to account for. And the GRA is saying, well, we are going to launch an investigation if we have certain bits of evidence. No, I want to see enforcement show up and say, no, you're under arrest, because that gives me confidence in the arms of the state being at work. But they can't work. They cannot work because no confidence is had in any arm of the state, as Kidackie would have said. I have no confidence in anybody when it comes to their ability to investigate and to prosecute. No more confidence left in any one of them.
No more confidence left in any one of them. You know, a couple of things have come to my attention that I want to get your comments on, brothers. One of our viewers drew to my attention some developments. Her grandson, who apparently is not feeling well and has been shunted from hospital to hospital, from one hospital to another one to another one. And nobody seems to be able to find out what's wrong with him, even though when the family spoke to people with medical knowledge, they point immediately to what the problem is. But in shunting from hospital to hospital, the family is paying money every time they go to hospital, every time they come to see a doctor. And I point to that example as another form of corruption that has become institutionalized, the way in which they're taking advantage of poor people. You know, there seems to be this official and unofficial network. Kidackie, and then I come back to you, brother. Have you all heard stories of that? And what does it say about, again, an institution, our healthcare system, how compromised it has become to corruption?
Well, again, Dr. Hines, I hasten to say that the state is aware of these things, and the state, the political heads, let me say, allow them to have because they want to continue to exert control. I've heard several of those stories. Just earlier in this week, I featured on my program, I think yesterday to be exact, someone who had an issue where a young lady died at the Georgetown Public Hospital. She encountered difficulties. She went to the public hospital. She was given a long date. She went to a private hospital. She met at that private hospital with the public hospital specialist who told her the cost would be $5 million to do the surgery. She said she didn't have the money. He referred her back to the public hospital where she met with him. He gave her 3 months, I think, before she can get the surgery. She died before that. Somebody, I don't know if it's the same person who sent you information, sent me some information that they have a child. I think the child might be suffering with appendix, that went to a public hospital. The public hospital referred the child to the private hospital. In fact, the public specialist referred the child to the private hospital, where that public specialist operates. Long and short is, right, the level of corruption in the society is no doubt organized crime, and it is allowed to happen because the bigger heads are not concerned, or they have no clue.
A lot of times,
what I'm saying. They have no care in stopping it. at a lower level because they benefit from it in the long run. A lot of these quote unquote private medical institutions that are now operating, if you check, you might very well find members of the government having shares in them, and that is what is happening. It's a cartel. Let me just call it.
Pastor London?
I have had my share of hearing these, what I consider to be painful reports, especially when they are underprivileged, as they label Guyanese, people who can't afford, they're poor, and they cannot afford to meet the charges that are laid on them. Even the middle class, I would like to mention, even people who are considered to be middle class public servants can't afford some of these medical charges that they have over their heads. And whenever persons can assess a situation and say that the way to survive in Guyana society today and to thrive is to be corrupt in some way. Honesty seems to be, as I want to put it colloquially, a cuss word. You can't be straight up and honest anymore. You have to be corrupt. When that happens, then there is no stone left unturned, neither is there an entity that would not be poisoned by that. Because if you've got government officials or administrators who are responsible for various state agencies, and they are silent regarding the corruption in the administration, what they call the government, then I would expect that everyone would likely have to benefit in some way or the other in their respective ministries. That is why you can find that there are exorbitant charges laid in reference to budgetary expenditure and so on in various ministries, because this thing has become a business now. Everybody has to eat at their table, wherever they're responsible for. And the poor man, they don't care whether he lives or he dies because he is not a contributor to this. So I would not have been surprised if, and I've heard it before, where someone says at the public hospital, you go private. When you go private, you see the same face. Or if you go private and say, listen, I can't live with you here. You have to go across to my clinic at a private hospital, and there you have to pay. So the corruption has become a cancer. It's become cancerous in our society. And at every level, at every forum, you can find this happening. Because the culture now, and that's the word I'm focusing on, the culture of our society now is that corruption leads to success. That is dangerous, very dangerous. And it also says that corruption breeds respect. That's even more dangerous.
Yes, you kind of hear government officials who are powerful saying to people about making money. You know, it's a really responsible thing. You know, they're not telling people, look, let us improve ourselves, let us move from point A to point B. They're telling you about making money. They're encouraging that culture of hustle, the kind of hustle mentality that you're seeing and hearing, especially among the young people who are the ones that are most vulnerable to that kind of thing. And that is why, we have to continue to press on programs like this for a new culture,
Correct.
a new way of doing things. And we can't wait until the government change to do that. We have to do it now. Because if we wait until the government change, they corrupt the entire society. And when the new government comes in, it can't govern. Because it is, and that in itself leads to authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Because a new government comes in and feel that the way it has to bring about change is to harm people and to, bully people. You're doing wrong, bully you. And it leads to that kind of authoritarian culture. That is why we have to nip it right now. You are watching Politics 101. Kidackie Amsterdam and Apostle London are here tonight, and we are talking about corruption in the wake of the US revelations of a corruption ring and which the government is at the center, not on the periphery. The government is at the center of this. What is interesting that I find here is what we would say in the Black community. A nice bit of a girl is being used as the face for this thing. In a society that is grappling with our racial contradictions, with our racial problems, that here you have a government that is peopled and controlled mostly by East Indian elite interests, but caught up in a big international criminal enterprise. And the government face is an African woman. And I have to say that cannot be lost on us. Pastor London, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, I was hoping that you would have gotten there at some point, and I'm happy that you have. Because I look at optics are everything for me. And maybe I'm just terrible with this. When I see things, let me go here, when I saw the painting with Irfan Ali, his wife, and she's holding a little, what I call a little black baby, giving him some food to eat. I was enraged. I spoke about it ad nauseum. I was livid because I said, how could you portray the African as the poor one who wants food from Ali's wife's hand? Optics are everything. Here you have the super wealthy standing here. And then the US presents to us now, okay, and this African one here, she is involved. And that's the face of the government entity, that the government that's corrupt. What message are you sending to us in reference to optics? When people see this, they say, oh, you see? Yeah, look who the corrupt one was, because her name has been mentioned. May Thomas, corrupt government official. And then in the report, it said other officials. Who are they? Do they have names? If you mention names to us, then I can say, okay, then, well, when I look at the proportion, ethnically, it makes sense because there are more East Indians in the PPP governing the country than there are African descendants. So how do we have one face on the government side? Look at the imagery. Look at the threat and the danger it poses to those African descendants in the atmosphere we've now found ourselves. When the other day we fought to say the Negro must not be applied to me and to you and to any Guyanese person. And just on the heel of that, we have a report with an African descendant being deemed culpable of corruption. The imagery bothers me because it doesn't tell the true story in reference to what we know to be the truth. Because if I look at anyone in reference to the PPP circle, she doesn't fall in the top 50 in terms of wealth. Not even top 100 in terms of what they've accrued from the state and from means of friends and cronies and lackeys benefiting. She is nowhere in reference to the pecking order of financial benefits. But her face has been put out there. This one here represents the government, and the government is corrupt. I don't like the optics of it. I hate it.
Kidackie, Amsterdam.
Well, the optics again, that is in keeping with the PPP story. The African Guyanese who are part of the PPP, who are represented in the PPP's government, are there first and foremost for window dressing, and secondly to be used as foot soldiers. To say, well, here, as the PPP usually argues, we're not a racist government. We have African Guyanese among our ranks. But when you look at the roles of the African Guyanese, you can conclude nothing else that they're there simply to be used as we like to say, house slaves. It's a fine example, this young lady. All that she, one might conclude, the only thing that she is good for is to front the PPPs or the state's corruption. That is what her face is now assigned to. And if you go deeper in the government, you will see that there are many other African Guyanese who, Kwame McCoy, for example, was allegedly assaulted I think Amanza wasn't this year, or mistreated or at the most recent committee sitting. I think the Foreign Affairs Committee sitting. The same individual has been associated allegedly with the assault of Member of Parliament Tabitha Sarbo Hali. That's an African face also. So when you look at these African faces in the PPP, the only thing you can associate them with are the ills of the PPP. And I dare say there's no mistake there,
There's
because
no,
the
yes.
higher ranks in the PPP have already determined, and they paint the picture that that is all African Guyanese are good for. They were utterances that the only thing we will be able to do is yard work and collect garbage. And so we are made to peddle the garbage.
My brothers, I've been toying as to whether I should ask you this question as we wrap up our program tonight. And I think I'm coming down on the side of thing, because this is now beyond political party. We look at what's happening in our major opposition political party, and they're preparing for their Congress and their elections. And none of us could escape the filth that is being passed. And I always say I don't want to get into people's party business, but I think this has gone beyond party business. I've never seen that kind of filth that passes for democracy. I hail the PNC for initiating democratic elections. But anyhow, you all know where I'm going. You can opt not to comment. It's up to you. But I have to put it out there. Pastor, Apostle, any thoughts?
I do have thoughts that are quite concerning, very deep, and again, there's a direction in which our nation is headed that is very dangerous for the future generation. I dare say that the culture created by these two major political parties, it breeds destruction to healthy governance, to good governance. I observe the accusations and the defense, and then the former parliament came out and she said, well, whatever it said is so. She issued a statement. And I said, one thing bothers me in all of this. Why does it have to require the onset of an electoral period? Why is it during campaigning? This is what we have to present. What if I know it? I could tell you, and I'm grateful to ask this question, because it's time for us to really consider who we are as a people. If I were to sit here with you tonight, Dr. and say, you know what, as one who leads the people's movement, I will be involved in 2025 or whenever the elections come, general elections. I would indeed represent the people as they would have asked me to, and should they elect me to serve, I would. I promise the people of this nation that within 20 minutes of my saying that, you see something about me. Oh, I did this, I did that. Because it has become our culture now, whereby you have to seek to destroy individuals, however you put it, in order to step up to a higher realm, be it economically or politically. That is dangerous. I cannot allow, though, the official leader of the opposition to sit quietly and just proceed as normal. The upright thing to do is to remove yourself and say, I give myself to a thorough investigation so that my credibility can be protected. I close by saying this, brothers. I have always said to people that my grandfather told me years ago, little boy, he said, all you have in this life is your name. If you lose that, you lose everything. He said, it doesn't matter what they offer you. That's why the people cannot buy me. Nobody can buy me. He said, it doesn't matter what people offer you. If it will cost you your name, meaning your reputation, forget it. There's no office in this state that could be more important than my character and my reputation. So if it requires my going through this to help to lead my people out of that, they'll stay in it. Because I don't have time to play with that nonsense. And there should not be this culture in our society where this behavior is acceptable. Preachers have two finally. So one more finally for me. Where in this time we could see that this is heading down a road whereby I don't believe that we will recover easily from it as a people. I don't have the party as a people. This has gone beyond party here. As a people, where a mother could say, this was done to me 10 years ago. And society is saying, well, you should have said something before, and you should have done that. And somebody said, I don't care what you say, I'll support this. And we've now put our morals on the line. Are we going to just kill each other, even assassinate our character for a piece of the pie? Think about it. At what cost will you destroy one another to gain power to lead a country? At what cost?
Kidackie, Amsterdam.
Let me start by saying the most recent allegations are serious. Allegations of sexual harassment and rape and all of that, abuse and all of that. They're very, very serious allegations. I don't know when these things happen, but my first reaction is that they should have been reported to the authorities as soon as they happened, or at the earliest possible moment and dealt with. Looking at the impact of all that has been happening, not only these most recent allegations, but all that has been happening leading up to the Congress of the party and all of that, and this fight for leadership, I have one conclusion. All of the people that are fighting for leadership, none of them has love for the people they represent. None. They're all about self. Because in my mind, I don't see that any of them has taken a step back and ask what will this do, quote unquote, to this big party that is supposed to represent all these people suffering. What will this do? Will it strengthen us? Will it give us a better chance of removing the oppressors? Or will it just destroy the chance of removing the oppressors and therefore leave our people to be for the oppressed? I dare say here again, once again, I do not believe any of them have a love for the people that they claim to represent and claim to so love, because all that we have seen so far is selfishness. Selfishness. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what the necessary alternatives are, but the Guyanese people, especially in this instance, the supporters of this quote-unquote major opposition party, I should say, we will just banish you, all of you. None of you fit to lead. And so let's look for an alternative. Is WPA the alternative? Perhaps. I rest my case.
Sorry. Please permit me to do, please.
Yes.
We speak to corruption here again, and this it came to mind, and it'd be remiss of me not to address it. In the midst of all of this, yet again, even the gatekeepers of morality are quiet. Again, that's what corruption does to society. Something as devastating as this, devastating, major. The gatekeepers, the spiritual gatekeepers, the imams, the pundits and others, they are not coming out to say, listen, this is unacceptable. We need to have this matter dealt with on any matter of this nature, because we have to address these things. You know why? Because we've already established a track record of how we deal with these accusations. We have Dharmlal as an example. We have other cases whereby the track record is the administration of the state, of the government, protects or allows to. You and I stood in the sun and the rain to try to fight for justice and say this isn't acceptable here. And when you find a corrupt society diving so deeply that even the integrity of our women and men no longer becomes priority, is no longer important enough for us to all stand and say, we want what is right across the board. We are dangerously poised. We are in a very, very dangerous position as a people. And this has happened because the culture has now become that we should all be quiet, we should mind our business, we should not get involved in things, let people fight on that side. As long as it doesn't touch me, I'm okay with it. That is not healthy. This is very unhealthy for us as a people. And again, I must say to you, Dr. Hines, that I commend you highly for taking what may be called the risk of raising this at this forum to say, we need to at least give some thought to this and open the floor for us to address it. You exemplify courage that's needed in society.
Yeah, I know what we are trying to do here is to create and build an alternative world in our Guyana, something for those young people, many of whom I am reliably informed are watching us now as we speak. And those who are not watching us, by the end of the night, 10 times, 20 times the number that is watching us now will be looking at us. What are we saying to them? It pains me that people want this thing so bad. So bad. All sides. No side is guilty. No side is innocent. No side is innocent in this. When I saw the first whiff of this thing a couple of weeks ago, my heart sunk because I know where it was going to end. And you know what? The men are going to be all right. The men in all three camps are going to be all right. The bodies, the political bodies are going to be those of women. Because it's so easy for this society to frown on women. It's so easy. Yet, we can't see. We can't see where we are going. I am concerned about all Guyanese. But I'm particularly concerned about African Guyanese because they're under the gun. They're under the gun from external to their community. And their leaders don't have the presence of mind. I said it last night. I said it this morning. I'm going to say it again. Those three people need to lock themselves in a room. Find a way to talk to one another. And come out before that Congress. Too much bloodletting. It's too much for our community to absorb. Their blood is being shed by this government. Physically and otherwise, economically, politically. And now their blood is being drawn by their own. Because this thing is sapping the energy of our people. I today was out this morning. People are saying, Dr. Hines, going to Congress place and talk to those people. No? I say, I'm not a member of the party. They said, no, but you are an elder. Your closing thoughts, my brothers, starting with you, Pastor, Apostle. You're muted.
I was so engrossed in what you were saying. I'd like to close with thanking you again for being indeed what the youth would call an elder. And I pay attention to when the younger people would approach, well, I'm now 50, so I guess I'm qualified to be an older man. Yes. But they'll approach us and they'll say, I look at you, I listen to you, I like what you're doing. And these are teenagers, these are 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds. And the people who would assume have no interest in what is happening around them. And I am pleasantly surprised and truly heartened to know that they have an interest. And the interest is in representation and good governance. They want to be represented in the right way, and they want to be governed properly. The other thing that gives me a sigh of some hope here, a ray of hope, is the fact that I believe that there are more people in our society who are given to propriety than they are those who are corrupt. What you ended this broadcast, this program with, lends itself to us being far more pensive and a bit more cognizant of what is at play in our nation. A nation that is poised, always poised, and now exploding with wealth. It's just we cannot enjoy it. When you find a nation that state, that this very critical period, it requires healthy and sound leadership. Once you have the devouring mentality to destroy each other at all costs, PPP, or am I still back? I think I got lost.
Yes, you're back. You're back now.
Thank you. I apologize. It doesn't matter what state, what part you're from. Once you see this behavior becoming normal in your society and normalized, your generations become threatened. A weakened state cannot defend itself. We cannot have a weakened state and then still seek to defend ourselves. It doesn't work like that. In any arena, if you are weakened physically, your body is subjected to destruction. We can't let this happen to Guyana. We need a different Guyana. We must have a different Guyana. Our children deserve a different Guyana. Thanks to you, Brother Kidackie. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Kidackie, your thoughts?
Well, in closing, I want to remind myself that there's such a term as a Pyrrhic victory. I am asking the contestants for leadership of the PNC and by extension leadership of Black people and by extension leadership African Guyanese leadership of this country to understand that there is such a thing as a Pyrrhic victory and ask themselves if the price that that we would pay for them to win this leadership battle is worth it, and what will be left for them to lead when they've finished tearing each other down. That is all I want to say. Nothing else. I just want them to ask themselves that. Is the price that we are costing ourselves right now worth the victory? And when we win, what will we be leading? That's all I want to leave.
For the record, I've invited Roysdale Ford. I've invited Amanza Walton. I've invited Aubrey Norton again. I've invited Sherrod Duncan, the candidates for the two parties, to come here. I've not gotten around to Nigel Hughes yet, but his invitation will be going out shortly. I've heard from Amanza, who was confirmed to come on next week. Aubrey has confirmed to come on next week. I have not heard. I've scheduled to have Roysdale Ford tomorrow night. I have not heard from him yet. I've not heard from Sherrod yet. But as I said, the ones on the PNC side, I am still saying they need to find a way to sit down among themselves and to take into consideration that they're representing people, whether they think so or not. People look to them, but it is not about them. In this crucial hour, when our people are bleeding, they cannot be inflicted with more blows by their own. By their own. By their own. Martin Carter says all are involved. All are consumed. My brothers, thank you all very much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Dr. Hines.
Thank you. We continue to continue. This too will have to pass. We shall overcome. We must overcome. We must overcome.